Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're joining us from. We are happy to see the number that is so growing at 64 people. Linda, that's really, really nice. So welcome to this session that is Change the World, one hobby at a time. And since I can still see people joining in, I would just request us to type on the Q&A to know where we are joining from, just for a few moments as we wait for our scouts to join us.
Yeah, and my name's Linda here, and I'm joining from Canada. But usually I would be joining you all from Malaysia, but I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Linda. And I'm Mary, joining from Nairobi. Quite exciting, Linda, isn't it?
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I can see that we have more people joining us. I see we have someone from California. Welcome. We have someone from the UK. Welcome. Yeah. So the topic of today, as shown on the screen, is Change the World, one hobby at a time. And I know all of us have our different hobbies, things we love to do and we enjoy to do. And here today with me is Linda, and we are going to share our special hobbies that we do and we love doing. And they're not just hobbies, they are hobbies that contribute to changing the environment in our own very little small ways that we think we are contributing to making the world a better space. So to start us off, I welcome Linda to make just a few practical announcements on Safe from Harm.
Thank you, Mary. And before we continue, I also see we have a few participants with us from Sri Lanka. So that's great to have you all join. So we wanted to just remind everyone about being safe during Jota Joti. So I think the most important thing to remember is to have fun. And we want to be safe and be nice to our fellow scouts and friends around the world. And we want to make sure that we remember to protect our personal data, our personal information. So things like our name and email addresses or phone numbers or different things, we keep those to ourselves unless they're with someone we trust. So we wanted to remind you about these important points, and also that we have this listening ear support. If you feel you would like to talk with someone, you can contact Safe Jota Joti at scout.org, and they're there to support you and listen. So also a couple points during this webinar, we don't have the chat room open or ability to speak or turn on your video camera. So you can engage a few times with us during the session by messaging Mary and I in the Q&A. And we will also have the recording of this session after.
Thank you so much, Linda, for that information. So let's be kind and courteous to each other for this session. So the session flow will be quite simple. We will have Linda sharing with us what she enjoys doing most, and that is scuba diving. Are we ready to discover what is this and what happens? And I will come next to share with you about my hobby, which is gardening. I have a kitchen garden, and I would like to share more with you about what I do and what I grow. So we will also have an engaging session where all the questions that you'll have for us, you'll have an opportunity to ask them to us, and then we'll share our impactful actions for the future. So with this, I think it will be great if you could tell us what you're most excited to learn about today. And you can do this by sharing on the Q&A session. What are you, when you chose this session, what was the most exciting thing for you to want to join Linda and me for this session? Kindly drop your responses there. And Linda, what are you excited to learn?
Well, for me, Mary, I know I visited you a few months ago, and I got to see your wonderful garden, and I'm just really excited to learn more about what you enjoy growing and how you do your hobby also with your children or people in the community.
Thank you. You will discover in a few. And for me, I think I live not close to the ocean or the sea. So scuba diving is something that is really far off me, but I'm really excited to learn about it and to learn about the marine life. And probably what really the fun part of that. And probably I would like to see what we have on the chat on the Q&A. So someone is really excited to to learn about diving.
Perfect. We'll be happy to share that.
Yeah, and then another one says, learn what hobbies people have from across the world. Yes, from this diverse group, I think it will be exciting to learn that. So you can keep sharing your what you're excited to learn on the Q&A. But thank you. And we are happy to be here with you to share our hobbies. So fast up, Linda. I think we will start with you by going under the sea or the ocean. Linda, can you tell us more about what got you inspired about the underwater world and why you love it so much? Over to you, Linda.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mary. And I'm really happy to see more participants sharing that they wanted to learn about world-changing hobbies, and that they're just interested in hobbies, so they wanted to join our session. So let's see what we can share with you over the next 30 to 45 minutes. So as Mary mentioned, I'll be talking about scuba diving and how I've used this hobby to help protect our precious underwater world. So here we have a photo of a green sea turtle that I love with some barracuda fish swimming in the background. So I first started this passion maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. I got motivated by my friends to do this because when I moved to Malaysia to work for scouts there, a lot of my colleagues and friends went scuba diving because Malaysia and Southeast Asia has some really beautiful diving locations. And I never imagined that I would go scuba diving to be comfortable underwater, breathing through a regulator and having the air that we need to breathe on our back. It was a little bit daunting for me. But yeah, I was motivated to go try it out. I first did a discover scuba, which means you learn some very basic skills you need, and you go down one-on-one with a dive master that would guide you around and help look after you, so you can experience and discover what scuba diving is about. So here you can see all the gear that I was wearing. Have the air tank, a regulator. There's a vest, a BCD, that helps with your buoyancy under the water. And the fins, I have my mask, some weight belts to help keep me down under the water so you can enjoy the fish. So I then went on, I saw some clownfish or Nemos when I was down on my Discover Scuba, and that sold me. I was totally into this new hobby and wanted to go get my certification with PADI. So I did my open water course. And then I've been diving a little bit since then. And this year I've done a lot more scuba diving around Malaysia. So this year I also picked up sort of an additional hobby with the scuba diving is underwater photography. I've been enjoying learning how to capture this unique whole new world to me under the ocean, and to be able to share that with my friends and family on social media or back at home, and sharing cool facts about the different animals that I've seen. So I've done my scuba diving mostly in Southeast Asia, where it's warm and in the ocean. But I've also gone diving in Canada, and that was super cold. We have to wear a special dry suit to stay warm. And you can also go scuba diving in freshwater too, in lakes or different places if you live near a big lake in freshwater. So I'll just share and you can see here another photo of me with the barracuda in Malaysia. And then I wanted to share a bit about my photography with you, because I think this is something that's really sparked my passion. So here's a photo of a soft coral crab, but I wanted to see with everyone if you can spot the crab in the photo, because the photo is also of some soft coral. So can you see that crab sitting there? Well, I've zoomed in for you. So that's the little crab sitting on the coral. And I think these crabs are pretty unique because they mimic the polyps or the polyps of the coral where they live. So they might be slightly different colors of pinks, whites, reds, and oranges, depending on which coral they live on. So they camouflage and mimic their home. So their corals are really important, well, for all marine life, but they're particularly important for these little creatures. And they only get a maximum of 1.5 to 2 centimeters in length, so they're very tiny as well. And then I thought this one was also fun to share with you all. It's an orangutan crab. It lives in the soft bubble corals most of the time. And if you zoom in, it looks a lot like its namesake, the orangutan, that lives in Indonesia and Malaysia. But I found it really interesting to read that the crab feeds on the little particles and things that get stuck in its furry arms on its body. So it will eat out of its hair. And it's also a bit sad to learn about these orangutan crabs, that since they're so cool to look at and really unique, a lot of them get harvested to be pets in people's aquariums. But I very much prefer to enjoy these creatures in their natural home in the oceans. And then this mantis shrimp, you can see it's poking out of its home. You see the big eyeballs, and its pinchers are sort of folded up, pointing downwards. And these mantis shrimp are pretty amazing. So they have a predatory strike that's like 23 meters a second for their speed. And that's 50 times faster than you can blink your eyeball. So that's pretty crazy fast. And then they can have a force with that strike that's 100 times its weight. So this means it's one of the strongest and fastest punches in any of the animal kingdom. And another cool fact about this creature is about its eyes. So it has really sophisticated eyes, 16 different color receptive cones. And if you think about it, humans only have 3. So these are really cool creatures, and their eyes that they have can see polarized light. So they've been used for research to help influence the development of cameras that can detect cancer. So creatures like this mantis shrimp that live in our oceans are also helping us humans with our medical research and our understanding about life. And I thought I would just show everyone a video of a white-tip shark that I got to see. And I want everyone to take a moment and see the shark. You might see some like blotchy spotches on it, on its skin. And there's still research being done about this, but unfortunately those blotches are thought to be caused by this type of skin disease that they think is caused by the warming ocean temperatures. So from climate change and the water is getting warmer. So this is a very visible sign for those sharks. So just as a quick quiz, I wanted to ask everyone here how much plastic trash you feel enters the ocean each year. So we have 1 million metric tons, maybe 2.4 million metric tons, 500,000 metric tons, or 4 million metric tons. So I'm not sure if we have some people are putting in options as D, C. A lot of D's and C's are coming up here in the answers, but the actual answer is thought to be option B here. So it's about 1.5 to 2.4 million metric tons of plastics enter the ocean every year. Okay, so we have a short video just to watch to reflect on the plastic pollution problem that we have. And there's no sound for this video, so just enjoy the messages that it shares through the visuals.
Strange things are happening. Why is no one saying this? Ooh. Once it was just a dream. Now it's a certain.
So from that video and my passion for scuba diving, learning about all these amazing creatures, I've also seen some really sad things. So the shark that I showed you, different plastics in the ocean. When I'm enjoying all the beautiful corals, you see plastics or garbage lying there. And I really wanted to help out, to help our planet. So one of the places where I've been scuba diving a lot this year is called Scuba Junkie over on Mabul Island, which is in Borneo. And they have a nonprofit marine conservation organization called SEAS. And they do a lot of community outreach, turtle and shark research and conservation, and lots of work with plastic and debris management. They also have some other activities they do about coral gardening, and they have a sustainable resort where you can go to stay and go scuba diving or snorkeling. So I really wanted to help out and give back to our community and to our earth, so I can continue to enjoy my hobby. So I went to volunteer recently with SEAS, and we did some school programs. So we had the children at the schools learning about some of the trash in their community, and they were picking up the trash. And then we talked about some plastic alternatives. So we were talking about all the plastic bags that they were picking up around their school, and we showed them how they could make a shopping bag out of an old t-shirt. So they enjoyed that activity. And then we also talked about sustainable fishing practices. So in many places, they might do fishing by letting off bombs in the ocean, and that really damages the corals and the environment, and the fish as well. So we talked about how that can be sustainable by reading a book and doing some coloring and talking about how we can protect our oceans. And they also, with the turtle research, we went on dives, and during our dives, we took photos of the sea turtles. So you can see here a green sea turtle, and on the side of its face, it has the scale pattern, and each of those are unique to each individual turtle. So from a photo and the database we can identify the individuals we've seen and match their facial scales. They also have a turtle hatchery. So here is what I was setting up to encourage the guests and other scuba divers to share photos that they've taken, not just of the turtles, but also things like leopard sharks and whale sharks have the spot pattern, and those are also unique. So each of them can be identified. And then I mentioned the turtle hatchery. So they have some turtle nests that were waiting to hatch, and they one of them recently hatched this last week with 113 little baby turtles going off into the ocean, but not very many of them will end up surviving to come back and lay their own nests, because you can see how small they are, and they go off into the big ocean on their own, but they have their natural predators like sharks and big birds, or human predator and stuff, and all the plastics and the boats and all of these harmful things that they can encounter. So this is one, if you are out like snorkeling or scuba diving and where you are don't have their own turtle database, you can always use this international turtle database, and you can share your photos with this database, and they'll add it into their records. Okay, and then we also did like community beach cleanups where we had all the school kids and adults coming out to help us. We did reef cleans while I was there. When you're out scuba diving, picking up the garbage you see. And in 2 cleanups, we collected 43 bags of garbage. So that was a lot, but it was great to see that come off of the beaches. And one interesting thing we did was we were also tracking the marine debris. So some of the times when we did our cleanups, we would calculate what we were finding. One time we did a cleanup for like 15 minutes. We picked up 85 diapers off the beach. So that was a really big issue in the area. And so there's a lot of different apps. There's a lot of like different apps or organizations, but this is one we used. It's called Clean Swell. So you can download the app and you can calculate how many bottles you're picking up or different foam containers, and that research helps them understand what plastics or trash are the most issue in that area, and it can influence policies and governments on making rules or recycling practices for this trash. Okay, so that was a little bit about what I did, and I think these actions can be done by anyone, either if you're just going swimming at a body of water, or if you're going snorkeling, or doing a hobby like mine with scuba diving. Anytime you're out, you can help pick up garbage, you can educate people, you can join the citizen science actions like taking photos of turtles or contributing to calculating the trash that you're picking up. So besides those, also encourage everyone, of course, to join the Earth Tribe with World Scouting and check out the Plastic Tide Turners Challenge, because there's a lot of great information you can learn about protecting our oceans and waterways. So I hope you enjoyed that. And if you have any questions for me, I see one question in our chat that we will answer at the end of the presentation. So think about your questions, put them in the Q&A, and we'll come back to them later on. But first, we want to hear from Mary and her gardening. So over to you, Mary.
Thank you so much, Linda. That was very interesting to learn. And from sea, now we go to land. Linda, we can go to the next slide. I'll try to be a bit fast because I see we only have like 15 minutes remaining. Yeah, so my passion for gardening began when I was young, because we used to grow the crops we ate. We used to grow onions, spinach, vegetables, and that passion has kept on going on. And with you here today, I'll be sharing, because I still keep a small garden around my house where I grow vegetables and onions and some herbs. And I mean, I'm really excited to share this with you, and probably can inspire you to start something around where you live. So Linda, we can go to the next slide, please. So what inspired me to start growing my own vegetables? As I said, part of it was born from when I was young, but I think coming to a city like Nairobi and learning that a lot of plants and crops were grown with a lot of chemicals and fertilizers, and you really have no control of the food that you eat or you put on your table on how it has been grown. At one point, someone mentioned that they bought some very nice vegetables, but they had been grown like in a sewage area. And that was not very interesting to hear. So with that, I felt that with the small piece of land or somewhere, I could at least grow what I eat and what I put to my table. Of course, I can't be able to do that for every other meal on my table, but at least a little of what I can. So on these pictures, you see some harvests from my garden. I have potatoes, Irish potatoes, and some carrots that I did in my garden. Yeah, Linda, the next slide. Yeah, the other exciting thing about my gardening is that I have two little kids, and I really enjoy spending some time with them and having them learn about these fun activities. So here you can see my daughter harvesting pepper, and you can see the pepper on the other picture. So it's really interesting to have this session with the kids where you go with them to the garden and they learn how to nurture a crop from when it is a seed and then to take care of it until when it's grown. And sometimes I like to liken this to taking care of oneself. The same way you need to really have some life skill in different areas. In taking care of yourself is the same way you need to take care of a plant from when it's young, nurturing it until when it gives you fruit. And it's a very fun activity with kids and very fulfilling because they are very excited to go to the garden again and again and check on how their crop is doing. So they learn the skills of watering, they learn the skills of adding manure to their crops. They learn the skills of, healthy organisms that coexist in the soil. And sometimes you liken this to them and saying that the same way you need to drink water is the same way your crop needs to have some water. The same way you need to have a balanced diet is the same way your plant needs to be taken care of. So it's really good lessons when you liken to the kids on how they can take care of themselves and the same way they can take care of the plants. Yes. So again, let's move on, Linda. The other exciting thing about this gardening is being able to eat healthy and organic foods. As I mentioned, a lot of pollution and what is polluting even our seas and oceans is this large scale use of chemicals and fertilizers that eventually get washed off to the ocean, causing a lot of pollution, causing a lot of death of the marine family, as Linda was explaining to us. And so for me, it's really cool to be able not to use these kinds of farming methods and just make my own manure from probably chicken waste or cow dung, or also putting sorting my kitchen waste from the house and having it decompose and using this as much manure and nutrients for my crops. And you can see there, I tried some nice pumpkin. It's not yet ripe, and some tomatoes. And on the other side, you can see like the garden in full with different things. There are potatoes, there are pumpkins, there are kales, which is really, really nice to be able to do that and to be able eventually to put this on my table. Moving on, Linda, I think the next thing that is really, really nice about being able to grow some vegetables is when you have a variety. My garden is very small, Linda knows it, but in that small garden, I have some spinach, some tomatoes, some kales, some spring onions, I have mint and rosemary, I have a few maize cobs there, pumpkin, carrots, coriander. I have 2 avocado trees. They are not grown yet, but in a few years, I can be able to share that. And I have a banana plant as well. And around the compound as well, I have tried to plant some trees also. And moving on, I think one of the other inspiring things also is the Food for Life project in the region. At some point, I was in charge of this project at the regional level. This project began in South Africa around 2007. And so far, it has been implemented in about 14 countries in Africa. And mainly, the objectives of the project is to build agricultural skills in scouts and to encourage them to be able to grow some foods and vegetables, and to also increase the food security in their family, And eventually, because it's a project that is aimed for scouts between 6 years and 26 years, it is organized in 3 stages. And the first stage is a starter. And this is for Cub Scouts. And mainly it's for them to know or to learn how to grow one type of a crop, or one type of a fruit, or one type of a vegetable. And then you gain a badge. And then you go to the next level, which is a silver, which is now you learn to grow a bit of mixed crops. And you start to learn a bit of pests and diseases. And there is the final stage, which is the gold. And this one can be done for rovers at that age. And on this, we bring in a component of entrepreneurship skills where you learn how to add value to your harvest and to be able to sell them. If you have excess, how to make a business plan, how to budget for what you get. So it's really exciting that if you learn how to grow your crops, it's not, you may also find your passion as a way of also earning a little money where you could pay for your scout camp or something, or also contributes to the diet of your family. Yeah, there has been some very good and exciting feedback from families that we have visited that have started this project at home. And moving on, Linda, to the next slide. So I think if you're not so privileged enough to have a garden, do you have a balcony or do you have a small space where you live? You can also grow your plants in containers. So you can use some sack, you can recycle instead of throwing away your plastics. You can recycle them and you can get some soil, as long as you have some soil and some water and the seeds, and you're able to recycle your kitchen waste to make manure. Then you can be able to grow a few vegetables and probably the herbs that you like, and some fruits like strawberries and things like this that do not occupy a lot of space around you. And soon you can be able to share these harvests with your family and share a good meal with them. And moving on, Linda. So I think for me, this is just a picture where you can see young kids harvesting some kales. And this was a project, this is not in my garden, but this is a project that we did with one of the NSOs in Burundi. So this is a project that you could also take up as your scout group if you have a space, not just at home, but you can extend this as some fun activity that you can do with your peers and your colleagues to enjoy this. And Linda, moving on. So yeah, another exciting thing about growing, like for me, sometimes I'm not able to consume everything that I grow. I don't normally sell the extra, but I share with my neighbors. And sometimes I also share with the less fortunate that not necessarily live close to me, but make a good harvest. And I know someone elsewhere needs some help, so you just give them and share what you grow. And there's a joy in sharing, which is really, really nice. Yeah. And Linda, so for me, I think this makes me really feel very connected with nature whenever I am in my garden. First of all, because it gives you that sense of taking care of life or something that you see it grow from the beginning to the end. But I think contributing to to making the world a better place, or the environment with all the pollution that we have. As you're aware, trees or plants give us oxygen, which we really need for us. And we have quite a huge deforestation and we are losing our green. So the little more we could plant, the little more we could make our world greener, the better for our ecosystem, because the plants, again, absorb the carbon dioxide that we breathe out. So the air is cleaner and fresher. So this is a call to all of us that if we can make the world greener. Even if it's a small space that you have, please take some action and start a small garden if you have space, or you can plant something in some containers and sometimes take photos and share the stories with us on scout.org. Moving on, Linda. And I think probably to learn more about the project that I said on Food for Life, I think you can look it up on scout.org, and we have some resources and materials, but also you can reach out to the Bureau if you need this, because we already have some manuals that are prepared for these 3 stages, and you can be able to start your own garden. I think this encourages to improvise and reuse the materials and tools that you can find for gardening, because probably one of the questions you have, but how do I do that? Well, I don't have all the materials. You don't have to go and buy everything. Just recycle what you have at home. If you don't have a watering can, for example, you could reuse one of the plastic bottles and make holes at the bottom, put water and water your crop. Yeah, so it's really exciting how you can do that. And again, when we are using our water and how to use the little water we have wisely, you could recycle some water from your kitchen, especially like water probably that doesn't have, let's say you used some water to wash your fruit or to wash your vegetables or something. You don't have to pour the water. You could use it to recycle to water your plants. So my call to you is start your garden today and watch the magic of your plants grow and enjoy the green and cleaner air around you. Thank you so much, and back to you, Linda. I see we only have 3 minutes to go, and probably we have a couple of questions to answer.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. I loved learning about all of that. So maybe I see a couple of questions. First, we'll start with the scuba diving one. So someone asked us or asked me about how it felt the first day I went diving. Besides being a little bit nervous because it was something new for me to do, I felt so amazed by the new world that I was experiencing under the ocean, and that's why I'm still doing it now. And someone else asked as well if it's dangerous when the sharks are there. Of course, sometimes you need to be quite careful depending on the breed of shark that you're seeing, but these ones that I've seen, the reef sharks are quite friendly, and if you don't disturb them, they generally won't disturb you, of course. And then someone was asking about the Clean Swell app, and it is for any kind of garbage pickup. So any cleanup that you're doing, if it's by water, in water, or not by any water, you can use that app to record your garbage pickups. So yeah, thanks for asking that, and hope you will use the app to contribute the data. And I think there's some comment about the gardening.
Yeah, that's a comment about gardening because of the weather, and the more that you know that we need to take care of the environment, because it's really saying that it's stressed by the weather. I think probably of rain or maybe lack of rain. So we really need to take care of our environment to be able to enjoy the fruits of the environment. Someone is asking how they can join Earth Tribe, Linda.
Oh yeah, so Earth Tribe you can check out online. You can also ask your scout leaders about it. There's a lot of resources online, and it's pretty much you making a pledge to help the earth, and there's lots of challenges you can do to learn about conservation and contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals. So you can look up the SDGs, Scouts for SDGs, and you can learn more about the Earth Tribe there. Okay. So I think that comes to the end of our webinar. So thank you so much for joining us, and we want to share the Challenge Valley code with you. So here you can see it on screen, and we'll let you take note of that code before we close up the webinar. So yeah, thanks again for joining. I'm really happy to learn all about your gardening as well, Mary. You grow so many different plants and vegetables and all that. It's fascinating.
Yeah, me too. Very happy to learn about the sea creatures. As I said, I don't live near a sea or an ocean, but it was really good to see them and to really see what marine life is under there. It made me really want to go one day to scuba diving.
Yeah, I'd be happy to go with you someday.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, take care, everyone, and thank you. Enjoy your Jota Joti, and maybe see you on the next live show or activity that's happening.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.